Hey, so we got another big update on the $5,000 DOGE Dividend Check. The proposal some people have been calling a stimulus check, and there's a lot to break down. Since our last update, more details have come out, and the conversation has only gotten more intense. The proposal has drawn serious political debate, new financial scrutiny, and honestly, a lot of confusion. Some of you have been asking, is this actually happening? Others are wondering, how much would we even get? And for those hearing about this for the first time, you're probably thinking, wait, what even is this? So today, we're covering everything, including the latest on how much money could actually be sent out, who qualifies, and the growing resistance in Congress. And if you've been following this from the start, you'll want to hear these updates because some of the numbers have changed. Before we get into it, if you want to stay informed on this and other financial news that affects you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new updates. All right, let's get into it. The DOGE Dividend Check is part of a proposal from the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, an initiative started under President Donald Trump and overseen by Elon Musk. The goal? To cut government spending and return some of those savings directly to taxpayers in the form of one-time checks. It's being framed as a way to incentivize fiscal responsibility, reduce waste, and supposedly rebuild trust in how the government spends tax dollars. The original plan suggested that if the savings targets were hit, Americans could receive up to $5,000 per household. But here's the key part. That number is not guaranteed. In fact, based on the most recent numbers, the actual payout right now would be a lot smaller. So let's talk about how this was supposed to work. The idea was that the government would cut $2 trillion in spending over 2 years. From those savings, 20%, or $400 billion, would go back to taxpayers, which would make those $5,000 checks possible. But that's the best case scenario. Right now, the total identified savings stand at $115 billion, meaning if payments were sent today, they'd be around $142 per person. Not exactly the windfall some were expecting. And even if the savings increase, the amount per person could still fluctuate. James Fishback, the CEO of Azoria, who helped put this proposal together, has made it clear DOGE is going to save what DOGE is going to save. If they hit $1 trillion in savings, the checks would be closer to $2,500. If it's only $500 billion, then we're looking at $1,250 per household. So there's no fixed number because the payout is directly tied to whatever cost reductions actually happen. Now, there's also been a lot of debate over who qualifies. Early on, there was speculation that only people making at least $40,000 per year would be eligible, but that's no longer the case. The current plan includes anyone who files a federal tax return, which means Social Security recipients, Veterans Affairs beneficiaries, and lower-income workers would be included. However, one major point of controversy is that undocumented immigrants will not be eligible, even if they pay taxes. This has sparked a pretty big debate. Fishback has been clear that illegal immigrants are never going to get a DOGE dividend. His argument is that they didn't come into the country legally and they don't contribute to the system the same way U.S. citizens do. But critics argue that this ignores the billions in taxes undocumented immigrants actually pay, with reports showing they contributed $96.7 billion in 2022 alone. So that part of the proposal remains controversial. But even if you qualify and the savings are there, there's still one major hurdle. Congress has to approve it. And that's where things get tricky. House Speaker Mike Johnson and other fiscal conservatives have already expressed concerns, saying that any government savings should go toward paying down the national debt rather than issuing direct payments. Right now, the federal deficit is at $36 trillion, and some lawmakers argue that adding stimulus-style payments, even if they come from savings, could make things worse. Senator Ron Johnson went even further, saying on social media, "The waste, fraud, and abuse DOGE is uncovering should be used to reduce spending so we can balance the budget." So, there's definitely a divide on whether these savings should go to taxpayers or if they should be used to pay down debt. Fishback, on the other hand, argues that this plan actually helps with the deficit because 80% of the savings would still go toward reducing government debt. He also believes that returning some of the savings to taxpayers is necessary to rebuild public trust. He pointed out that nearly 70% of Americans think the government is not using their tax dollars wisely, and this is a way to change that. But does this plan actually work? Some economic experts don't think so. The Congressional Budget Office has reported that federal spending has actually gone up since DOGE was introduced, not down. And here's another issue. Almost 40% of the budget cuts identified by DOGE aren't actually savings. They include things like pre-existing program shutdowns or funds that were already spent, meaning the actual amounts saved could be much lower than advertised. Brendan Duke, a senior director for federal budget policy, has been especially critical, calling the DOGE dividend idea completely unrealistic. He pointed out that Congress, not Elon Musk or Donald Trump, determines federal spending, and that many of these so-called cost reductions may not hold up when Congress actually reviews them. And speaking of Congress, let's talk about what's next. As of now, there is no official bill tied to this plan. Fishback has said that a bill will be introduced soon, but there's no confirmed timeline, and there's no indication that Congress is seriously considering it yet. Some reports suggested that it could be included in a future reconciliation package, but right now, there's no concrete proof that's happening. So what does all this mean for you? Right now, the DOGE dividend is still just a proposal. It's gained some high-profile supporters, but there's no guarantee it will actually happen. Until there's an actual bill, confirmed savings, and congressional approval, this isn't something anyone can count on just yet. And if this plan does move forward, the earliest potential payout wouldn't be until 2026. So even in the best-case scenario, it's a long way off. But what do you think? Should these savings go back to taxpayers, or should they be used to pay down the national debt? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this update helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the latest updates on this and other financial news. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.